Someone bumps into you at a coffee shop. Their elbow catches your arm. Your drink almost spills. And before you even process what happened, the words are already out of your mouth. Sorry. They hit you, and you apologized. And the worst part, you didn't even notice you did it. Because this isn't something you choose. It's something your body does before your brain catches up. Like a reflex, like flinching. You apologize when you cry. When someone's in a bad mood and your first instinct is, what did I do wrong? You say sorry for being too quiet, too loud, too much, not enough. You apologize for existing. Everyone around you thinks you're just being polite, but you know the truth. This isn't politeness. This is survival. And if you've ever felt that, stay with me. Because today we're going to get to the root of why this happens, what it's doing to you, and how you actually begin to heal it. And before we go any deeper, I want you to know something first. You're not alone in this, not even close. You know this if you've ever started an email with, "Sorry to bother you," when you were literally just doing your job. You know this if someone stepped on your foot and you said sorry. You know this if you've been in an argument, clearly right, and still apologize first. Not because you changed your mind, but because the tension was unbearable, and the fastest way to make it stop was to just take the blame. You know this if you've ever felt guilty for being sick, for canceling plans, for crying in front of someone and immediately saying, "Sorry, I don't know why I'm being like this." And here's the thing nobody tells you. The people who apologize the most are almost never the ones who've caused the most harm. It's the opposite. They're the ones who were hurt the earliest. So, what's actually going on underneath all of this? Because there's a name for it. And once you hear it, a lot of things will start to make sense. Psychologists call this compulsive apologizing. But that clinical label doesn't capture what's really happening underneath. What's actually driving this is something trauma therapist Pete Walker identified as the fawn response. You've heard of fight, flight, and freeze. But there's a fourth survival response that almost never gets talked about: fawning. It's what happens when a child learns that the safest way to survive an unpredictable environment is to appease, to agree, to make themselves as non-threatening and invisible as possible. The apology becomes armor. It's not about manners, it's about safety. Your nervous system learned, if I take the blame before someone assigns it, I can prevent the explosion. I can keep the peace. And here's what I really need you to hear. This is not a character flaw. This is a survival strategy your body built when you were too young to protect yourself any other way. It worked then. It kept you safe. But the apology that once saved you is now slowly erasing you. But how does this actually start? Because nobody is born apologizing for everything. Something happens. And it usually starts much earlier than you'd think. Most people who carry this pattern didn't start out apologizing for everything. They started out the way every child does. Open, unfiltered, honest. But then something happened. Maybe you grew up in a home where one parent's mood set the temperature for the entire house. When they were calm, everyone could breathe. When they were upset, the air changed. And you, even at 5 or 6 years old, became the one who monitored that shift. You learned to read the angle of a jaw, the weight of a sigh, the volume of silence. And the easiest way to prevent the storm was to apologize, preemptively, for anything, for everything, for being loud, for being present, for needing something when the timing wasn't right, which somehow it never was. Or maybe your home wasn't explosive. Maybe it was quiet in a different way. A parent who withdrew when disappointed. A caregiver whose silence felt heavier than any yelling ever could. You learned that displeasing someone meant losing them emotionally, and for a child, emotional withdrawal feels identical to abandonment. So, you adapted. You stopped having preferences. You stopped saying no because the cost of no was too high. You became fluent in the language of appeasement before you even finished elementary school. What developed wasn't politeness. It was hypervigilance, constantly scanning for signs that someone was unhappy with you. A hyper-responsibility, carrying emotional weight that was never yours to carry. And a slow dissolution of self, where you stop knowing where your feelings ended and someone else's began. Gabor Mate writes in The Myth of Normal, children don't get traumatized because they are hurt. They get traumatized because they are alone with the hurt. And that's exactly what happened. You were alone with feelings that were too big for your small body. So you found a way to make them smaller. You apologized. You made yourself the problem, because at least that was something you could try to fix. So, what does that child look like when they grow up? They look like someone who's completely functional on the outside and quietly drowning on the inside. They look like you. And here are the 7 signs. 1. You apologize for having needs. You need a day off, and the first thing out of your mouth is, "Sorry, I know the timing is bad." Every request comes wrapped in an apology because somewhere deep inside, you still believe that needing anything from anyone makes you a burden. You know this if you've ever been genuinely sick, and still apologize for not being productive. 2. You take responsibility for other people's emotions. A friend seems quiet and your stomach drops. Your partner sighs and your mind runs through everything you said in the last hour, searching for the mistake. Someone is upset and you feel personally responsible, even when it has nothing to do with you. You know this if someone says, "I'm fine," and you physically cannot rest until you've confirmed it. 3. You over-explain every decision. You can't just say no. You need a detailed defense. You can't just pick a restaurant without acknowledging why someone else's choice might have been better. Every decision comes with a paragraph of justification, because simply choosing feels selfish. You know this if ordering food makes your palms sweat. 4. You cannot accept a compliment. Someone tells you that you did something wonderful, and your immediate response is to deflect. "Oh, it wasn't that great. Anyone could have done it." Praise feels dangerous because accepting it means believing you deserve it. And deep down, you still believe you're only as good as your last act of service. You know this if genuine admiration makes you physically uncomfortable. 5. You stay in situations that hurt you because leaving feels like betrayal. A friendship that drains you, a job that disrespects you, a relationship where your needs are consistently ignored. You stay because leaving feels like abandoning someone, even if they were the one causing you pain. You know this if guilt is the primary emotion you feel when you think about walking away from something that hurts you. 6. You apologize during conflict, even when you're right. An argument starts, and even when you know clearly that you're not the one who caused the problem, you're still the first to say sorry. Not because you changed your mind, because the discomfort of conflict feels so unbearable, you'd rather swallow your truth than sit in the tension. Peace at any price, even when the price is yourself. You know this if you've ever apologized and immediately felt hollow. 7. You feel guilty for things completely outside your control. The weather ruins plans, you feel guilty. A friend's flight gets delayed, you feel guilty. Your guilt has no logical boundaries because it was never about logic. When you were young, blame was unpredictable, so your nervous system decided the safest option was to assume everything was your fault all the time. Which of those 7 hit closest to home? Drop the number in the comments, 1 through 7. You don't have to explain anything, just the number. Someone else needs to see it. Now, this isn't just emotional. What I just described to you is happening in your brain, physically, neurologically, and understanding that changes everything. When a child grows up where blame is unpredictable and disapproval feels dangerous, the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, becomes hyperactive. It starts treating a raised eyebrow or a shift in tone the same way it would treat a physical threat. And the apology? That's how your nervous system tries to neutralize that threat before it escalates. Meanwhile, your prefrontal cortex becomes overworked, constantly calculating. Is this person upset? Was it something I said? What do I need to do to fix this? Your HPA axis, your stress response system, becomes dysregulated. Cortisol floods your body at the slightest sign of tension. A text left on read, a flat tone, a slight pause. To most people, these are nothing. To you, they're emergencies. Dr. Stephen Porges's polyvagal theory explains why. Your nervous system has 3 states: safe and social, fight or flight, and shutdown. People with the fawn response get stuck looping between activation and appeasement. You sense danger, stress floods in, and the apology is how you return to safety. Over and over and over. But here's what actually matters. Your brain has neuroplasticity. The patterns learned in childhood can be rewritten, not overnight. But with safety and practice, your brain can learn that tension doesn't always mean you need to take the blame. And that brings us to the part I really want you to hear, because understanding the problem is only half of it. Let's talk about what healing actually looks like. Healing doesn't mean you stop being kind. It means your apologies start coming from choice instead of compulsion, from genuine responsibility instead of reflexive fear. Some days you'll catch yourself mid-apology and gently redirect. Other days you'll say sorry 15 times before lunch and feel like you've made 0 progress. That's not failure. That's a nervous system that spent decades learning one pattern, slowly learning a new one. And please, don't let anyone tell you to just stop saying sorry. That's like telling someone with a broken leg to stop limping. The apology isn't the problem, it's the symptom. You deserve to heal what's underneath it. Here are 5 practices that actually work. 1. The pause practice. Before the apology leaves your mouth, pause. 1 second. Ask yourself one question. Did I actually do something wrong? Not, could this person theoretically be upset? But, did I cause harm? If the answer is no, let the moment exist without an apology. That pause interrupts the reflex. Over time, it creates space between trigger and response. And that space, that's where your freedom lives. 2. Language swaps. Instead of, sorry I'm late, try thank you for waiting. Instead of, sorry to bother you, try thank you for your time. Instead of, sorry I'm being emotional, try thank you for holding space for me. This reframes your existence from an inconvenience into a presence worth appreciating. Change the words, and slowly, the belief underneath them shifts too. 3. Inner child dialogue. Find a photo of yourself as a child, around the age when things got heavy. Look at them and say what nobody said back then. You didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't your job to keep everyone calm. You're allowed to take up space. Write them a letter. Tell them you see them now. This might crack you open. Let it. That grief has been waiting a long time for a safe place to land. 4. Boundary journaling. Set a timer for 10 minutes. Write without stopping. Don't edit. Don't perform. What am I taking responsibility for that isn't mine? When did I first learn my needs were a burden? What would change if I stopped apologizing for things I didn't do? What am I afraid will happen if I stop being the easy one? Your subconscious already knows the answers. This just gives them somewhere to go. 5. Nervous system regulation. When the fawn response activates and the apology rises in your throat, try this. Press both feet flat on the floor. Feel the ground beneath you. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4, release for 6. Hum gently. It stimulates the vagus nerve and signals safety to your nervous system. Place one hand on your chest and breathe until your heartbeat slows. Your nervous system doesn't need grand gestures. It needs consistent proof that the danger has passed. And when you actually start doing this work, something shifts, not just inside you, around you. You stop shrinking when you walk into a room. You ask for what you need, without a disclaimer attached to it. You sit in tension and realize discomfort doesn't always mean I did something wrong. Your relationships shift. People start meeting the real you, not the version designed to keep the peace at any cost. And maybe the most beautiful part, you break the cycle. If you have children, they learn what you never got to learn. That existing is not something to apologize for. That love doesn't require performance. If you could go back and unapologize for just one thing, what would it be? Share it in the comments. Because someone who's still apologizing for everything needs to see that it's okay to stop. So let's come back to where we started. Back to that coffee shop. Someone bumps into you, and your first instinct is to say sorry. But now you understand what that apology really is. It's the echo of a child who learned that the world was safer when they took the blame. A child who absorbed everyone else's chaos and called it responsibility. You were never the problem. You were a child navigating a world that asked too much of you, too early, with too little support. And the fact that you're here, doing this work, trying to understand yourself instead of just accepting the story you were told, that is the bravest thing a person can do. Carl Jung once wrote, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." And maybe, for the first time, you're choosing. Not the version that kept the peace, not the version that made everyone comfortable, but the version that knows, deeply and quietly, you were always enough, even before you said sorry. You're not a burden. You're not too much. You're not the reason things go wrong. You're someone who learned to make themselves small to keep others comfortable. And now you get to take up space, not apologetically, unapologetically. If this resonated with you, you're in exactly the right place. This is UNFELT, where we go deep into the emotions you feel every day but can never quite name. Subscribe if you want psychology content that actually gets you. And drop in the comments, what topic should I explore next? I read every single one. Until next time, take care of that heart of yours.